A breath of fresh air. This episode starts with Rainbow Dash calling all the town's Pegasi for a meeting. Fluttershy gets one of the flyers and goes into hiding, as a tree. Alright, give them a point for that one. We then get a 50s era movie that explains what's going on. Pegasi need to create a tornado to propel water up to Cloudsdale to create rain clouds. Plain and simple. And now it's Ponyville's turn. By the way, does this sound like the Powerpuff Girls narrator to anyone else, or is it just me? To do this, they need a minimum of 800 wing power. Because Spitfire from the Wonderbolts is going to be watching, Rainbow Dash wants them to break the record of 1,000. Fluttershy is seen cowering, and she disappears. The next day, Rainbow Dash is training all the Pegasi. Yeah! That's a running gag throughout the episode. If it works for you, fine. As I was saying, though, Rainbow Dash is training all the Pegasi.
Every pony except Fluttershy.
She goes to visit Fluttershy only to find out that she's come down with something called the pony pox.
Really knocked me for a loop. Achoo!
Wow, I never thought I'd find a worse liar than Applejack. Rainbow Dash dumps water on her, and the paint she used for the spots wears off. I guess we can call them even for what Fluttershy did in the last episode. Fluttershy still doesn't want to go to tornado training though, so she fakes breaking her wing. Rainbow Dash startles her with a whistle, causing her to leap into the air and hover, disproving the lie. Then Rainbow Dash tries asking what's going on in a very caring and supportive way. Fluttershy eventually admits that she had horrible stage fright, caused by being bullied a lot when she was younger.
The other things used to tease me. A lot! Fluttershy, Fluttershy, Fluttershy can hardly fly, Fluttershy.
She doesn't even want to risk the humiliation again.
Suck it up, Fluttershy! This is no time for... I mean, confidence or no confidence. I'm gonna need every Pegasus to break the record, including you!
Wow, she realized who she was talking to and changed her tone immediately. That's pretty good. That conversation is enough to get Fluttershy to go along with it. Then innuendo, and next scene. Twilight and Spike are there to measure the Pegasi's wing power, when they notice some pony coughing. Several Pegasi run and test their wing power with the instruction to at least get a 10.0. The Pegasi do pretty good until it's Fluttershy's turn. She starts flying and a couple of Pegasi start laughing. They might be laughing at her, or they might be just laughing at a joke. I really don't know. Either way, it gets Fluttershy to have flashbacks of her bullying, and she slows down to the point where she's barely able to stay airborne, and she scores 0.5.
0.5? Isn't that like lesson 1? Ow!
Thank you, Twilight. Why couldn't you do that when Rainbow was making fun of Spike in the last episode? Then we get this scene. Yeah, that's not creepy, not at all.
Some punks poked a little fun at you when you got stage fright. You aren't gonna go quit just because of that, are you? Yes!
Jesus. That's definitely emotionally charged. We see Fluttershy being comforted by her animal friends. And yes, they reused a soundbite again. Right now, it doesn't really matter. Hey, even Angel's being helpful. I might as well. Fluttershy eventually decides to at least try to train and overcome her social anxiety. So we get a montage, and yes, it is awesome. After it, she comes back full of confidence. So she flies to the track and scores a 2.3. What do you mean we're at the maximum? If I could add another point for the scene, I would. This episode shows that even if you try your best, you still might not succeed. And it gets around to showing that you still shouldn't give up. A lesson it's not even really trying to teach. Rainbow and Twilight try to make her feel better, but they are unable to. Spike assures Rainbow that she has enough wing power to break the record, but it's clearly not what's on her mind. Hey, can I deduct a point from Spike's snide comments so I can give this a point? Thank you! The next day they're ready to begin, but several Pegasi have come down with something called the feather flu that put them in the hospital. With all of those sick Pegasi, they might not have enough wing power to lift the water to Cloudsdale, let alone break the wing speed record. Rainbow decides she doesn't care, and they're going to try it anyway. They start flying and create some interesting visuals. Fluttershy comes by for moral support, and learns that 8 Pegasi are out sick. Some of the Pegasi in the tornado get too tired, and it starts to break apart, launching Rainbow Dash into a tree. Even though she's failed, she demands to have her crew try again. They don't seem to mind, so I won't count this against her. They start flying, and as they get going, there's the constant fear that they're going to break up again. They hit 795 wing power, and it won't go any further. Fluttershy gets handed some flight goggles, and with Twilight's encouragement, goes into the tornado. Then Fluttershy starts flying faster than she ever flew before. When Pegasi start passing her, her fears catch up to her, but she makes it clear that they will not stop her, and with Fluttershy's help, they reach the 800 wing power minimum. Why does that surprise you? Don't you normally supervise this thing? When the tornado breaks up, Fluttershy is still flying around in circles. Rainbow stops her, and everyone else congratulates her. We're still at the maximum, aren't we? My maximum episode score is still 5 stars, and this episode clearly deserves it. But I can also give it my first platinum. For an episode to get a platinum from me, it needs to be more than just good, more than spectacular. It needs to touch on my emotions in all the right ways. Just like for an episode to get a 0, it needs to touch on my emotions in all the wrong ways. You really feel for Fluttershy in this episode. You want to see her succeed in ways that I don't think we've yet seen. The biggest complaint lodged against this episode is that Fluttershy's repeating the same lesson she somehow learned in putting your hoof down. Okay, for a few seconds, let's pretend that episode isn't a colossal train wreck, and she learned how to assert herself correctly. That was dealing with external conflict and not being taken advantage of. This was dealing with internal conflict and not letting stage fright get the better of you. Those are two very different conflicts. Besides, if the worst part of your episode is that it's a better retread of an old episode, fixing pretty much everything wrong with it, I think you're doing pretty good. Honestly, this episode is like stone perfect. I guess the only way you could not like it is if you don't like Fluttershy. And after this episode, any animosity I held towards her from her previous episode has just magically evaporated. It still doesn't fully forgive her, but she is back in my good graces. As a last word, I want to personally thank Cindy Morrow for not only creating something beautiful, but rekindling my faith in the show after Merryweather nearly destroyed it, and reminding me why I still watch this show.